In the last class, we had discussed about layouts and the way in which controls inside an Android app can be laid. Okay, that's what we were discussing in the last class. We had seen a lot of layouts with respect to constraint layout, relative layout. Okay, and we had seen a lot of layouts with respect to only the control and what they do, how they work. But in this class, we are going to see how to create a layout in Android. In this class, I'm not going to discuss about any programming. Okay, it's only about design. Okay, and please note, as we move forward in our programs, there'll be a little bit more of design. Okay, I'll be focusing a little bit on design and the remaining part will be entirely on the program part. Okay, so when you want a layout, when you want to see, this is your app screen right now, a very blank white screen. Okay, and I'm just going to give you an overview of how this Android Studio is going to help you in developing apps. Okay, so first thing, please understand that when you open an app, everything is not written in one page. Okay, so right now what you see on the screen is just one page. I cannot say one page is my app. Okay, just like a web page, right? You've seen websites, right? You have developed websites. Every page is unique. We say index.php or index.py. All right, you keep different files. All right, and all these files together work as one project, one website. Okay, so just take it. I hope everybody knows how a website works, so I'll not explain that part, but I assume that you already know. See, when you have a website, let's say that you're developing a website for something like a shop or for a school or a college or something. All right, you create lot of files, lot of web pages, but only one file will be called at the time. At a particular time when you run the website, one page will be called. Most of you know it's called index. Okay, some people call it as default, some people call it as index, some people use the word home. But you understand that even though I have 100 files in my project, one file only will be called. Okay, that file will automatically, if the name should be index, system will automatically pull that name. All right, so if you name the file as index.html or index.php, that file will be first called. Okay, from that file, you'll go to other files. Like for example, when you type google.com, you get google.com's main page. All right, from that, they have given links to go to Gmail, your Google Drive, like that, a lot of things are there. So in your app also, please take any app for that sake. All right, when you take an app, the first screen, the launcher screen, okay, the technical word is the launcher screen. Okay, so the launcher screen would be the one which the user will be seeing, and followed by which we'll be clicking on something, or when we swipe or something, we'll go to a different place. All right, so that's what we are not going into that part right now. But right now, single page, we'll see how a single page works and how you develop in a single page. Then we'll move on to multiple pages. Okay, so a single page in Android is called as an activity. Okay, please remember the word. This is a technical word, activity. Okay, I'll repeat again this word, activity. Why? Because you'll be using it throughout this subject. Okay, whenever you go to a Android app development, anywhere you go, majority of the time the word which will be used will be activity. Okay, those who have worked with servlet, applet, okay, the technical word there is servlet. You will not remove that word. The word will be there. Okay, you can call it as hello servlet, welcome servlet, okay, convert servlet, like that. You keep giving names. Here, if you notice, look at the file name. Just look at the file name. Okay, so the file name is main activity .java. I hope you guys can see the screen. Okay, so I'll just zoom it a little bit. Okay, so you see main activity.java. All right, so the first thing which you need to know is the keyword. The keyword here is activity. All right, and the file name here which was created is main activity. So automatically you can understand this will be that launcher activity, or in other words, like how a website goes, index.html or index.php. Okay, like that, main activity is going to be kept. This will be the main screen of your app, from which you will be going to other parts of the app. I hope you guys follow this, right? One. Now this is the code part, because you see .java along with it. What will be the name of the design? Reverse of that, activity main. You can see this here, okay, separated by a small underscore. And you see here, Java follows this case. All right, first letter capital, and every other word are following by that the class names. Okay, not the method names. I'll explain about the naming conventions a little bit later, but Java follows this way of naming. But when it comes to HTML, XML, Okay, please note the recommended way is not to keep capital letters in the name at all. All right, XML file as well as HTML file. Typically, you check any professional website development, you will never find them using capital letters in their file name. Okay, only programming languages would prefer that. Okay, HTML, XML would normally prefer to keep their entire names in small letters. Okay, so and here the division is clearly understood by the capital letters, capital letter M, capital letter A. You can identify two words. How do you identify it here? Because all are small, put an underscore in between. No space allowed in any file names. That I hope you guys know that. In programming, no file should have a space in the name. Okay, remember this. I'll talk a little bit more about file naming conventions in Android a little bit later. But remember this. Main activity.java, reverse of that is activity underscore main.xml. So if I create another activity, okay, so if I create another activity, just give me a minute. Okay, if I create another activity, let's say second activity. Okay, so file name will be second activity.java, capital S, capital A. Activity underscore second will be the design's name. I hope you guys follow this, right? Okay, so keep this in mind. Right, let's move on. So here you have a Java code, you have a design code. I am not going to talk about Java today. Okay, we'll just see the design part. All right. So when I open design, here on the top right corner, I wanted to notice that three things are there: code, split, design. Those who have worked with Dreamweaver and other IDs where you see the code as well as Visual Studio. Okay, here you see there is code, there is design, there is split. Okay, let me just click on split so that you see both. Okay, so here on the left hand side you see the code and the right hand side you see the design which is generated. Why this code? I hope you guys follow. All right, so I have a code here, I have a design here. All right, so if I want to only see the code, simple, only design here. Okay, both are, I mean, all the three should be equally easy for us. Okay, it's not that difficult. All right, so when it comes to coding, okay, typically we don't write much code here. It is just XML. All right, so you have, it's like HTML, writing tags, tags after tags, tags inside tags. Okay, like that you'll keep on writing. Okay, so you can always see how your code goes while you are designing. Okay, that I leave it up to you guys. It's the developer's preference. Okay, but anyway, we predominantly will be working with design. When there is an error, we will go and see the code of the XML. All right, so this is first thing. Second thing, I want you to see that there is one more option here which says device for preview. Okay, so right now the screen is shown for pixel device. Now, what about while I'm designing, I want to see how this will come in a small screen, how this will come in a tab screen, how will my design come in a let's say a mobile or a tablet or a TV or a automotive, whatever it is. Let me just click on it. You'll see that what are the options available. Okay, you can see a big menu which says phone means what type of phone. 5-inch screen till 6.3-inch screen phones are there. Okay, lesser than that right now, nowadays you don't get phones which are less in screen size. Okay, all Android phones are at least 5-inch and above. Okay, so here, these are the different pixels or you see the resolution of the phone, the inch size of the phone and the DPI of the phone, density of the pixel. Okay, so and then tablet. If it's a tablet, how would it look like? Okay, you can just change it. For example, right now it is in 5. I've checked 5. Okay, 5-inch screen. If I change it to 6.3-inch screen, how it will be? You can see it became narrow. Okay, and now let me change it into a tablet which is 10-inch screen. Okay, automatically it put it in the other mode because in this mode it's very difficult to see this. Okay, a tablet screen. Okay, and if it is a watch, okay, a square watch, a round watch. Okay, so you can choose which one you are designing for. Square watch, a round watch, a round chin watch, okay, and a TV screen, okay, and if it is automotive, which means like on cars and vehicles, okay, so those kind of things. So you can choose whichever you want, or you can also, let's say that you have connected an actual phone to the system, okay, that phone's resolution also will be shown here. You can choose which phone you are developing on, or you can create a custom phone. Right now it's also showing AVD, the virtual device which I am using. Okay, so typically we'll be developing with whatever device we are deploying it on. But also you should make sure that the design what you have done here matches or works well in any screen size. Be very careful with that, guys. Okay, so now let's go to the other parts. Here on the top corner from the beginning, I'll just tell what these controls mean. One, this is saying that design surface. Design surface is this part, guys. Okay, what you see here is called the design surface. If I click on it, it says design blueprint, design plus blueprint. What is selected right now is design plus blueprint. Okay, this is the preferred way of development. This is the actual design. This is just the blueprint, the one which you see in blue color on the right hand side. Okay, so you can either work only with the design or only with the blueprint, or you can work simultaneously, design and blueprint. Okay, that's the first menu. Second menu says portrait or landscape. Okay, majorly it's portrait or landscape. If it is portrait mode, how it will look like. If it is landscape mode, how it will look like. Okay, then also you can choose whether it is where is it going to be in the UI. It's going to be normal. It's going to be in a car. It's going to be in a desk. Is it going to be a television? It's going to be a device. Okay, or something like that. Then do you want night mode or dark mode? Okay, all these things are available as the second option. Third one, which I've already discussed. The fourth one, what you see is which version of Android should I work with? You see that the first tick mark says automatically pick the best. Okay, which will be the best according to Android? Whichever they have recently released will be the best. Okay, whichever recently released version which you have on your laptop will be automatically picked because that is the best. Okay, so let's move on. And which project? The project which I've created, and which language are you developing it for? Okay, this is a separate title, guys. I'll talk about that shortly, but I'll come back to this a little bit later. And yesterday in the class, I had shown these two things to you guys. One is auto connect. Okay, that's a magnet symbol which is right now striked out. It's disabled. Okay, and another one is infer constraints. Okay, inferring constraints. Okay, I'll keep this all on hold for some time, but before that, let me just quickly tell you what are the layouts we have discussed. A few. Okay, constraint layout, relative layout, table layout, grid layout. Okay, like that we have seen a lot of layouts, linear layout, etc. Okay, so let's see what this is. A Hello World project which we created in the last class. I didn't do any coding here. Let me just go to the code part, and by looking at this code, can I find out what layout has been used? Okay, I guess you guys can easily understand that. What layout is used in this design? Let me split it and keep so that it's easier for us to monitor. Okay, so what layout has been used in this design, what you've got automatically? Okay, so as I told you in the previous class, constraint layout. Okay, the layout which you see here in the screen is a constraint layout. Okay, and right now that is the root element of your program. Okay, what do you mean by a root element? In HTML and XML, these are all markup languages. Okay, they have only one rule. HTML does not follow the rules very strictly, because even if you write something, HTML will try to work. XML is not like that. XML follows some rules. If you also have to follow that rule, otherwise XML will just throw an error. Okay, so keep that in mind. XML and HTML have one rule common. Very important rule is that there should be only one root element. Okay, there should be only one root element. What is the root element in HTML? HTML. Okay, you write everything inside HTML tag. Inside HTML tag, you have head and body tag. Okay, inside head tag, you have title and all those things. Inside the body tag, you put everything else. But majorly, all these should be inside one tag called as HTML. So in any website you open, go to the source of it and see what is the first tag you see is HTML. What's the last tag you should see? /HTML. You should not see anything else after that. Okay, that's the idea of a markup language. Same thing here. If constraint layout is my root element, the last element should also be constraint layout. Let me just put a label to, because right now nothing is there on my screen. It's showing like this. Let me just put one control. Okay. The moment I put a control, you see something changed in the code. Okay, I've just put a text view. Text view means label, guys. Okay, so I'll explain the controls a little bit later. But just see, I've dragged and dropped something onto the screen here. Okay, so once I dragged and dropped something here, that control, what you just dragged and dropped, is a text view. So it has been added here. Where is it inside? It is inside constraint layout parent element. So the last element is constraint layout. The first element also is this is because it's the root element. I hope you guys can follow this. If I close this, the entire program should be inside. Nothing should be outside it. Okay, there is an error. I'll explain that error shortly. Okay, but anyway, just look at this. There is one tag and there are a lot of attributes to that tag. Okay, I'll talk about the attributes later, but just focus on the tag name. The tag name is constraint layout. And what is the closing tag name? Constraint layout. Okay, so this is the parent, and inside that you have a child. Okay, so in the last class, in the last lecture, we had also told that this is nothing but a view. Okay, please note, view group. We had kept two things. In this one, there is one view, which is text view. And what is the view group? Constraint layout. Because it is not a control. Constraint layout is not a view. You cannot see. For example, if I delete this text view, you don't see anything on the screen, which means that's a view group. It's just a box inside which you are putting a control. When you put a control inside the box, okay, you only see the control, but also you should remember the one which is outside is the box which holds it. Okay, which means constraint layout. You cannot directly put a text view here as the root element. You can't put everything inside the text view. So this becomes like a placeholder or a box inside which you have controls. Okay, now the next thing what I'm going to say is, let me put a few controls. Let me put one button here. Okay, so please note where I am putting the button. Okay, and there I'm putting the text box. Okay, I'm putting both somewhere there. Okay, let me just focus only on the design right now. Okay, code, I hope you guys understood, right? I'll not show the code all the time, but just for your understanding, I put this. Okay, the constraint layout is a parent, and inside the constraint layout, you have two children. Okay, text view and button. There might be another parent inside this, which has another children. Okay, the hierarchy goes like that. So I'll show that shortly to you guys, but then let me just keep this, and let me just go to the design part so that it's easier to understand. Okay, the outside look, what you see is your constraint layout, and then inside that you have two controls. Now you see at the right corner there is a small error. Okay, it says there is an issue in the design. Okay, so here I will stop and ask you guys one question. Yesterday in the constraint layout part, I had told you some condition. Can anybody repeat that rule of a constraint layout? I asked this question yesterday also. There was a rule given, right? I told you that there is only one rule for all controls which are inside a constraint layout. What was that rule? I told you to remember that part and focus on that. What was the rule? What will happen if I don't follow that rule? Can anybody tell me? Let me see if anybody listens.
You must add at least one horizontal and one vertical constraints for the view.
Correct. Who spoke right now, guys? Jude, is it? Lanston, correct. There should be one vertical, one horizontal. Riza also is correct. At least one vertical and one horizontal constraint. Okay. Now, you guys have told me what is the rule. Now, my second question was, what if I don't follow that rule? I told that there'll be an error shown, but you can still run the app. Okay, so even if I run the app, something will happen. I told that in the class. Can anybody remember that? Exactly, correct, Lanston. It will be in 0, 0 coordinates. Okay, let me just click on this error and let me see what it says. Okay, so I want you guys to focus on the bottom. I clicked on that error and it is showing me these are the error messages. Okay, so you can see that there are two errors here. It's very simple. Look at that error. It's self-explanatory. It says missing constraints in constraint layout. See, you have put two controls, text view and a button in a constraint layout. Okay, but you have not given any constraints. So you can open the message and see what is the detail of that error. Okay, so you can see that they have given a very detailed way of what it means. Okay, so I guess, sorry, one second. Yeah, just read this, guys. Okay, I hope you are able to see the screen. So just look at this. Okay, just try to read this sentence. The title of this error is missing constraints in constraint layout. Look at the detail or what the information it's giving to you. The view is not constrained. It has only design time positions. So it will jump to 0, 0 at runtime unless you add the constraints. Okay, that is enough. Remaining part, I need not bother. Look at that one statement. That is what you need to understand. The view, what you have put right now, two controls you have put, those two controls are not constrained. If they are not constrained, design time, it will be like this. When you run, it'll be a little bit different. Okay, let me show you when you run it. Let me just click on run. Okay, so let's see what happens. I've put a text box, sorry, a text view as well as a button in my program. Okay, there are two controls here. I've kept them almost in the middle of the design. Okay, let's see if the output also comes in the middle of the design. Okay, according to the rule, what we have seen, there is no constraints here. Since there are no constraints, it should automatically go to 0, comma 0. All right, so let's wait and see what happens in the emulator. Okay, so the app is now installed, and I guess you guys can see what has happened, right? I had put two controls, guys. Okay, I did not give a constraint. Okay, even though there is two controls decently in the design, when I ran the program, the app comes like this. There is a button, there is a text view here. I don't know whether you are able to see that there is a small line shown here. Okay, it is there, but both have gone to the same location. What is that location? 0, comma 0. Okay, which is X and Y position starting. To the extreme corner, it has gone. Okay, this is the problem if you do not give a constraint. I hope you guys understood what is the by default error which you get when you open or when you're running this particular program. Okay, so how do I fix this error? Okay, how do I fix this issue of constraint is number one. Okay, you guys already told me the answer. One vertical constraint and one horizontal constraint. So let me just zoom. I'll get into that. Okay, so let me just get a little bit closer. Okay, I hope you guys can see the screen now. Okay, every control has, I hope you guys can see, four handles. I had shown that in the PPT yesterday. There are four handles. Okay, left, right, top, bottom. Okay, not that control. Any control for that sake will have four handles. I hope you guys can see this. So how do I give constraints? Now let me just give only two constraints. Okay, so you cannot just give left and right and say that I've given two constraints. So what I'm supposed to do, at least one vertical and one horizontal. So I'll just put constraints and then I'll drag. Now you see when I'm dragging, there is something on the blueprint as well as here. You can see how much distance from the left, how much distance from the top. Okay, so two constraints are applied. Now let me go to the error and see. Right now only one error is showing. Reason? Because one control followed the rules. What is that rule? I've applied constraints. Let me run the program once again and see what happens. Okay, right now you understood, right? There were two controls. I had only given constraints to one control. That is the minimum constraints I've given. Left how much, top how much. Only that much I've given. And the second control, the button, I did not touch. It is still showing an error. Okay, so let me just terminate that app and install this app. Okay, so let's see what happens when the new app, right now, one control is showing an error and one control does not have an error actually. Now you see the text view has come properly. It's come from left somewhere and top somewhere, not exactly that number, but some constraints have been given. So it's coming in that correct position. But button, normally in the design, it is below the text view, but right now it's gone to the top corner. Okay, so that's what constraint means. Okay, I hope you guys follow. So this is one way of doing it. All right. In the last class, I had also discussed about these diagrams, right? The small icons which are here. And I said there is one thing called infer constraints. What do you mean by infer constraints? Automatically. Okay, ask the system to put the constraints, not you. Okay, some places it will work well, but some places it might not be recommended. Okay, but anyway, I'm just discussing all these things today. So let me just clear all the constraints which are applied. That's the clear constraints button. So let me clear all the constraints. Now no constraints are there for any control. Let me go to the error. There are two missing values there. Missing constraints are there. Okay, now what I'm going to do right now is all I'm going to do is keep the button in the middle of the screen. Okay, and text view just above that, and I'm going to just click on infer constraints. I'll just zoom on it. Infer constraints. Let me just click on infer constraints. Okay, something happened, but I'm not bothered about it. Rather, I'm going to see whether there's an error. Okay, now that says no errors. No errors. That error icon went off. Okay, now let me run the program once again. And let's see what happens now. All right. Right now, the design, what you have kept, and the working, the actual working of my app, both looks the same. I hope you guys understood what is the constraints layout doing. All right. Not only that, there is so much to learn about constraint layout, guys. But there is no time to discuss in detail about one layout alone. So we will use all of these things when we require it. Okay. So that's it. This is constraint layout. Now, let's also get into a few other things. Okay, so when you drag and drop controls one after the other, you can keep it however you want. Now you see, since they are all constrained, when you move, the constraints also get altered. You guys can see that, right? When you move a control after inferring constraints, okay, the constraints also get modified. You can see this part. Okay, so this is not how it's supposed to be. So when you're using infer constraints, you should only use infer constraints after everything is done from your side and you're not going to modify the design anymore. Then only you should use infer constraints. Otherwise, you can do it every control on your own. Okay, that I leave it up to you guys. So this is one. Now let me go to another constraint. Okay, let me just remove these controls. Okay, let me keep a blank screen. Let's design a simple form. Okay, now constraint layout, I've kept it aside. I'm not going to touch the constraint layouts right now. Let's move on to another constraint. Okay, another layout. Okay, another one which I'll be using majority of the time will be linear layout. Okay, I'm going to click on layouts here, guys. I hope you can see this. Okay, there are a lot of layouts, but only a few are there in the palette, starting with constraint layout, linear layout, frame, table layout. Okay, the others are also there, but I've not gone to that extent. Okay, so let me just keep it like that. Now, from constraint layout, the majority of the time, I'll be using constraint layout and linear layout together, guys. Okay, because most of the time, what we'll be using is we'll be having controls one after the other. Now, let's say that I want you to create a simple registration form. Okay, a simple form which will take a basic details from the user. Okay, what will I use? Okay, I need to ask the user to enter his name, enter his email address, enter mobile number, like that. I'm going to ask one after the other. Okay, so for that sake, I don't require constraint layout because it's one after the other. Okay, if controls are there one after the other in a neat fashion, then obviously I'll use linear layout. Okay, now, but the question will be, should I remove constraint layout from here? Already I have a constraint layout. Now, if I want to use linear layout, should I remove it? No, not required. You can always nest layouts. Remember that. Okay, a layout can be kept inside another layout. That's the advantage here. So let me go to the design. Let me just drag and drop one linear layout. Okay, I want you guys to focus here. What kind of linear layout do you want? Okay, now I want controls one after the other like a registration form. So this linear layout will be making sense to me. So let me just drag and drop a linear layout here. All right, please note, guys, you won't see anything on the screen except the handles. You can see one handle here, one handle here. Okay, but nothing is there on the screen. Why? Because this is a view group. It's again a box. You have put a box inside a box. Now if I put controls here, please note, when I drag and drop controls now, where will it go? Okay, let me keep the split part on. Okay, so that you can see how it looks. Okay, number one. Here you see that I have a constraint layout, and inside the constraint layout, you have a linear layout. Okay, remember this. Now, let me just infer constraints so that there's no errors. Okay, so here, right now, when I click on it, who am I talking to? I'm talking to the linear layout. Okay, so there is a box outside which is constraint layout. Inside that I have linear layout. Now if I drag and drop controls, let's say for example I put text box. Okay, let me ask the user to enter his name. I'll put one text box here. Okay, the moment I put text box, who is taking the text box? Okay, please note, this is the text box. Text box's name is edit text. Okay, I'll talk a lot about controls as it when it goes, but the major controls are button, text box, and label, right? Here, button is button only. Text box is called as edit text, and label is called as text view. Please remember the words which I'm using here, guys. Okay, plain text or all these controls, what you see with an underline in it is text box. The one which does not have an underline, which has the word called text view, is used to view text, not to do anything else. In other words, label. Okay, so the technical word is label, but here we'll be using the word text view. All right, so I've put a control called a text box, which will take the name from the user. Okay, let me ask the password from the user. Okay, I can put the plain text only and change it into password. Okay, that's my wish. All right, let me ask email from the user and phone number from the user. Okay, and I can take date and time, etc., etc. Let it go on. I've just put a few controls, guys. Okay, then let me put one button. Now you see how the controls are aligned. Please note that the controls are aligned in such a way they come one after the other. Now I want you guys to focus on the code part. Okay, let me just show the code part. Please note, if I minimize the constraint layout, everything else should be inside the constraint layout. Okay, that's what. Let me just open the code alone for a minute. This is constraint layout. When I open it, there is one inside constraint layout. There is only one child element called linear layout. If I minimize the linear layout, nothing else is there, because the controls which I put, the text boxes what I put, all are inside the linear layout. Okay, so inside the linear layout you have edit text, I think two or three, I think four edit text I put and one button I put. So 4 text boxes, 1 button are inside linear layout, and this linear layout is inside constraint layout. I hope you guys can get the flow, right? So this is what has happened right now. Let me go to the design. Okay, so now let me just zoom it. Okay, all right, so right now I have controls, but they don't look so neat because they are so close to each other. Okay, first of all, let me just check how it will look in a bigger screen or a small screen. If I keep 5-inch, okay, let me keep it portrait. How will it look like? If I change it into a bigger screen or a smaller screen, how it will look like? It will look the same. I hope you guys follow, all right, because it's one after the other. So there is no big changes to be given here. Okay, so remember that part. So I have kept one control after the other. Now let me just run the program and see. There is no error, by the way. Can you guys notice that? Okay, I'll not talk about warnings right now. Warnings I'll talk about in the next class, but there is no error right now. So let me just run the program and see how the program will come. Okay, in the meantime, while the program is running, I want you guys to remember what we learned in CSS. In HTML, when we create, I don't know, most of you would have come across CSS, yes. Okay, so I'll not go in depth of it, but I want you guys to remember the box model of CSS. Okay, what is the box model of CSS? Okay, any website for that sake. Okay, there is something called margin, something called padding. Okay, I'll show you that in working shortly, but see this. How the design is kept, same way the code is kept. So I have a form, okay, which has text boxes one after the other and then a button, all one after the other. Okay, so when I tap on it, I get the keyboard of the phone. Okay, that's not from, this is not what I wrote. The phone takes care of it automatically. Okay, so I know what I have to give and it's automatically coming here. But they are too close to each other and the button is too big. Okay, so that's what we are going to be fixing next. Okay, so let me just stop the program. Let me just come back to the design. Here in the design, I want you guys to notice that I have controls one after the other in a neat fashion, but they are very close to each other. They are very close to the border. Okay, so for that, I want you guys to understand what is the box model. Okay, so any website for that sake, if I go to, let me just go to the inspect part of it. Okay, any website, let it be Google or any website for that sake. Okay, I hope you guys can see this. Okay, so any website for that sake, when CSS is written, I want you guys to look at this part. Okay, I hope you guys can see. Let me zoom it a little bit. Okay, any website for that sake, this is called the box model of CSS. Okay, the control is here. Whatever control you are highlighting on is here. Okay, this is the control. Now, about in that control, you have something called padding, then border, then you have margin. Okay, padding of the control, border of the control, margin of the control. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys. The same thing I'll be using here in Android also. So let me just go to the design. Let me choose all these controls. I'll hold control and choose all the 4 controls. Okay, all the controls for that sake, or just press Control A and go to the attributes. Okay, now please note I've chosen multiple controls. So not one control, it's showing multiple controls have been selected. So what attributes will be shown? All attributes which are common to all these controls will be shown. Okay, remember that. Now let me go to the code and so the attributes, and let me find some attributes which will give me that margin or padding or something like that. Okay, so let me search for something called margin. In that, whether I have some property called margin. Yes, there is a margin. I want you guys to focus that layout underscore margin. That's a property. If I open that property, I want you guys to notice what are the margins available. Okay, there is one word called margin, and then you have left, top, right, bottom. If I put on margin, it will be applied on all the four sides of a control. But if I want only left, I'll use this. If I want only right, I'll use this. If I want only bottom, I'll use this. Okay, since I want all the four sides to be not close to each other, let me just give a small this one and see. Okay, I'll just give 5 dp. Okay, and let me see the screen. Now you see there is a small gap between all the controls, and I hope you guys can see that clearly in the blueprint than in the design. In the blueprint, you can see that everything is inside a box, and each box is away from each other at least 5 dp. Not too close to each other. Each control is away from them. You can obviously increase that and decrease it. It's entirely up to you guys. Okay, so let me just choose all the controls. I'll go to the margin. Okay, I can always give a little bit higher so that you can see that. Okay, so I'm moving it. Okay, so now each control is little bit away from each other. This is a layout. Okay, that's one property of a layout. Should I bother about padding? Yes, you have padding also. Okay, there will be something called padding. Same thing here. Okay, let me just give 5 dp padding. Okay, there will not be much difference in the layout part, but it is within the control. Padding is a little bit inside. Margin is the outermost. Padding is inside. Border becomes a little bit more inside. Okay, so anyway, I'll remove that right now. Let me just keep it as it is. Default padding is taken. Default padding is bigger than the one which I gave. That's why it's coming like that. Okay, so all these things you guys have to focus when you do a design. Okay, and no control should be close to each other. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, what I want you guys to know is what is the size. Here you see there's a weird button here. The button is taking full. It's not like that. I want the button to take only the size of the text what is inside, not the full size of the screen. Because if I run this on a portrait mode or landscape mode, sorry, the button takes a bigger size. I hope you guys can see this, right? This big button nobody will keep anyway. So what if I want to keep a button, text box, let it be there, no problem. But button I don't want like this. Okay, so I want the button to take up a decent space here. So let me click only on the button. Let me go to the properties or attributes. Okay, and I want you guys to notice on the top there will be something which is common. Layout, width and layout height. Okay, I want you guys to notice the word which is written there. What is the width of this button? What is the answer they have given? Match the parent. Okay, I want you guys to understand what that word means. Okay, what do you mean by match parent? Match the parent of this tag. Okay, so let me go back to the code. Now looking at the code, you guys can easily understand who's the parent of this control. Okay, who's the parent of this control? Not constraint. Linear is the parent. Okay, so what is the relation between button and constraint layout? Okay, button is the grandchild. I hope you guys can follow. Button's parent is linear layout. Linear layout's parent is constraint layout. That's how I put the design right now. Okay, so keep that in mind. When I click on button and I say button, take the size of your parent. Okay, so when I say take the width of your parent, what will happen in the design? It takes the width of the parent. The parent is this big. Linear layout, the complete layout structure. That is why it's saying height, wrap the content. Please note the words, two things they have used, wrap content. So now what I want is, I want the button width also to only wrap the content. So what should I do? Just change that to wrap content and you will find the button changes a little bit. Okay, what has it changed? Okay, right now the size of the button is determined by the content. I hope you guys can see this word here. Okay, it says wrap the content. Okay, so but if I say match parent, that's it. I hope you guys can see that. Okay, so which means what is the height of yourself? You're saying my parent's height. Okay, so wherever the space is there in the parent, it just takes up and then the button becomes like this. Let me say match parent. You can see the button takes the entire screen. Okay, so the width of the button is the size which parent can give, and height of the button is the size which the parent can give. Match the parent's size which is available there. Okay, and it took up. But this is not what I want. Okay, what do I want then? I want a small button in the middle of the screen. Okay, which will only show this. The size of the button should be the size of my text, what I've written. So all I'll do is I'll say wrap content. Okay, I hope you guys know what is the difference between match parent and wrap content. There is one or two more. Okay, but then you can also give a width and height as DP, fixed size. Okay, that is not recommended most of the time, but anyway, this is fine. You can see that wrap content. So the button comes neatly like this. But as I told you in the beginning, I want that in the middle. Okay, so in the last class, I had told this also. All right, like how you have align in HTML. In Android, there is a keyword. Anybody remembers that keyword? Like how you have alignments in HTML. In Android, I told you there is a specific keyword which allows you to do that. Equivalent to alignment. Ah, okay. At least Naveshri is listening. Okay. Naveshri, that's correct, Naveshri. Gravity. Okay, I used the word gravity yesterday and I explained to you guys that how do you align a control? Use the word called gravity. Okay. Now I'm going to click on this button and I'm going to find, since I know the property name, I can search the property name here, gravity. Okay, so here, let me just search for the layouts gravity and I'll say center. Okay, so the layouts gravity, I've said center. The moment I click on center, it comes here. Okay, so the center of the screen, the gravity comes. Okay, which means I've changed the gravity of this particular control, alignment of this control to be in the center of the screen. That's it. Okay, so that's how you design. Let me just run this and see how it comes in the phone. Okay, so when I type something on control, okay, and when I move forward, okay, when I click on tab and all those things, it should obviously wait. Okay, so here, I click here, it waits for me to enter something or do whatever you want. Okay, I can type something here. Okay, and then click on tab. I'll go to the next control. Okay, I'm using tab here on the screen on my keyboard, but in the phone you'll anyway use this button called next. Okay, next. All right, or you'll just tap on it. So you tap on it. If it is expecting a number, the keypad will change into number. If it is expecting a string, it will change it into string, etc., etc. Okay. So now, last one is the button. If I click on it, something will happen. No, nothing will happen. Why? Because I've not written code for it. This is just design. So I have kept all these things and a button is there. Okay, so the design is done with, I think we have given equal enough. You can see that there is a small gap between the corner. It does not touch the corner of my phone screen. Okay, it comes in the middle of that. Okay, and each control has a good space. Like for example, if I type something here and type something here and type something, there is a space between each and everything. Okay, this is an email address actually. So I can keep typing. This was expecting a number. Okay, a phone number or something. Okay. I'll just put like that. So I've got a simple form within a few minutes. Okay, just a few things. Just drag and drop and your design is ready. Designing will be easy if you understand how layouts work and what each control will help you do. This is one only part in design. Code part will require Java knowledge. Okay, but design is easy for anybody to do if you practice it. Okay, and also look at your phone. Okay, look at different apps. And when you look at them apps, understand which layout they would have used and how they have presented that control to you. Okay, try to take some apps in your phone and try to replicate that in your Android studio. Okay, try to do some controls like that. Okay, let me just quickly go through another 2-3 minutes. I'll stop. Okay, just look at this. There are a few controls I want you guys to notice here. Okay, I've kept a form here. We'll do registration form in the next class or something. Okay, first we'll do some program with adding numbers, then we will do for registration, all those things. Okay, so first here we have common controls. The common controls are text view, button, image view. What do you mean by image view? The one which is used to show images. Okay, and other things I'll take a little bit later. There is switch. Switch is nothing but your toggle on or off. Okay, and the second type which you see here is text. What and all text based controls are there? One, label. The one which does not have an underline is called a label. Technical word here is text view. The remaining thing, what you see, all these one which underline are all text boxes. Okay, Android's word is edit text. Okay, only thing is like how you have in HTML input type equal to text, input type equal to password. Like that, I can drag and drop only plain text and modify its property. For example, this is a name, right? I can go to the properties, or in other words, attributes. Okay, and I can also find something called type. Okay, input type, you can see that input type, what type of input would you like to have. Okay, just click on that, it will show you all the possible types. Okay, so let me just click on the flag here and you will see what type of controls. That text box itself can take a lot of things, starting with date. Okay, they've given some order here. Okay, so message, long message, multi-line, suggestions, filter, number, date, time, mail address, just a text, phonetic text, capital letter sentences, password. Okay, like that, lot of things are there. By default right now it says person's name. Okay, you can also make it as just text, remove that and make it as just text. That's also fine. Okay, so you also have to apply it below. All right, let me just zoom out. Okay, so I'll just choose text and say apply. So now what I'm looking for is just a text. Why is the name not going? Because it's text. Okay, remove that and it will go from there. Okay, in here in HTML, you guys will remember there is something called placeholder. Okay, in Android, we use the word hint. Okay, so I'll just use the word hint. I'll just say enter your name. So that will be the hint. What do you mean by a hint? The hint is something which comes like a placeholder. Okay, it will be shown on the text box, but when you start typing, that will go off. Okay, let me just show you what is a hint. In the meantime, let me just do it for the other ones also. This is a password. So the hint I'm going to put is enter. Okay, I'll just say enter your password. I'll put hint in all the controls. Okay, the next one is email address. I'll just say enter email address. Last one, I'll just say I think that was a phone number. So enter mobile number. Done. So I have created a form like this. Let me just run the program once again. Okay, and you'll see what is this hint. Hint is nothing but placeholder in HTML. Okay, so let's see how the app comes. Here you have a simple form, okay, which has a lot of details asked. Okay, and placeholders are there right now, not like plain text box like how we saw a little bit earlier. Okay, when I click on it, okay, the placeholder is still there, but when I start typing, placeholder will go off. Okay, so when I clear it out again, placeholder will come back, just like in HTML what you see here. We call it as hint. The hint will always be there till you start typing the actual sentence. Okay, you would have seen this in almost all your apps. Okay, so let me just put a name. Okay, and password. Okay, email address. Okay, and it goes off once you finish this, and mobile number. Okay, so when you start typing, the this one will go off. Okay, that's it. A simple design is done with respect to our Android. Okay, now I hope you guys have followed what I said so far. Okay, there are a lot of more things which you need to learn, but anyway, buttons. You have a regular button. We have image based button. Okay, and then we have groups of chips. Okay, in that sense, it will be like this, the one which you guys have already seen. Okay, a small what do you call, like a tablet it will look like. Okay, but anyway, we will see the groups of them used. Okay, which has information put in it, and then checkbox, radio button group, toggle button, switch, floating action button. Okay, what is floating action button? At the bottom of your WhatsApp, you see one small thing which says new chat. Okay, or when you are writing status, at the bottom there will be something called edit. Okay, like that. That is a floating action button at the bottom of the screen. Okay, what are the other widgets available? A simple view, an image view, a web view, what I told you yesterday. How do you watch a video here? Calendar view, progress bar, the one which says round one, and the horizontal one, seek bar. It's like the volume button, what you guys normally have. Okay, seek bar, which is discrete, which does not have a button on it. Okay, rating bar, search view, like that. Lot of controls are there, guys. Okay, you guys can just see that. What are the containers? Containers are just boxes. These are not actually controls. Like for example, drop down spinner, okay, and then recycler view I'll take towards the end, scroll view, okay, and the card view. You have tab layout. That's why I said I didn't take everything in the slides, okay, but then we'll use them when it is required. Okay, and then we have Google's controls. We will not take it right now. These are all old controls: legacy, relative layout, list view, all those things what I told you, all are old but still are available. Okay, so these are the controls, or what we call them as components. Okay, some people will use the word views and view groups. Okay, so all these are technical words, guys, but you can see that how we have designed a form so quickly, okay, by only using XML. Nothing to do with Java here so far. Okay, so with this I'll stop for today. If you have any questions, please do ask.